You always feel the immense pressure to start a conversation. It's like when you walk into a room full of people, the voice in your brain will say, go talk to someone. Otherwise, it'd be pretty awkward if you just stand here and do nothing. This mindset has been fed to you since you were a kid by your parents or teacher, who told you to be more sociable so that you can network with more people or stand out from the crowd. They may be correct to some degree, but forcefully transforming yourself from an introvert to an extrovert will never be the solution. Introverts and extroverts are just built differently. And I think you already know this by now. Introverts gain energy by being alone and reducing stimulation, while extroverts gain energy from external engagement and social interaction. It's like solar power versus hydropower, which use different energy sources. That's why if you are an introvert who tries to become an extrovert. You have two options. One, you drain your mental battery to increase your level of talkativeness. Or two, you somehow find a way to completely change your energy source such that your mental battery won't be drained, which I don't think is possible, because it'll be like putting a solar panel into a river and hoping it still generates electricity. So you need to ask yourself this question. How long can I last before my battery is completely drained and I get burnt out from having another conversation with yet another stranger? This brings me to a point I don't see many people talking about, which is the trap when you try to be an extrovert. When you push yourself to talk to so many people, you think it's gonna be quite easy at first. You just introduce yourself to a bunch of strangers, you ask them who they are, how their weekend is, and what their hobbies are. Then connections are formed, and you'll think, whoa, why did I think social interaction was that hard? All I needed to do was to overcome my anxiety with conversations with strangers. You'll feel like you're winning. But the problem is that those initial connections are the easiest to form, since they're usually superficial and surface level. Eventually, they require depth, and this is where a real struggle begins. You realize that social interaction isn't just a one-time transaction, it's an ongoing subscription. When all of your acquaintances expect you to have follow-up hangouts, your social network will become more complicated than you can handle. At the end, the social energy will be drained completely, and you have burned out. As a result, you're going to resort to cutting the connections that you have needlessly made. It's not because you lack social skills, it's because you create a system that's fundamentally unsustainable by forcing yourself to be an extrovert. It's like when a business owner gets overly ambitious and tries to scale the business aggressively without sufficient resources. You'll always fail. So, how do you survive as an introvert? The first thing you can do is to focus on quality instead of quantity. Speak when it's truly necessary. I don't know about you, but I always find myself eager to listen to introverts more than extroverts. This is because they're more likely to speak with intention. Now, I'm not saying introverts are better than extroverts. Extroverts excel at things like bringing people together or adapting to a dynamic environment. But since they usually talk constantly, it's easier for me to phase out some of the conversations that I know are not important. In economics, there's a term called scarcity value. One of the factors that causes this phenomenon is scarcity bias, our tendency to place a higher value on things that are limited in availability. That's why you can leverage this as an introvert. Speak with intention and impact instead of trying to speak at every turn. And people is gonna quickly realize when you open your mouth, you aren't just making background noise, you're delivering value. But how do you do that? It's simple, you listen to others. I've heard an interesting quote that says, we have two ears and one mouth, so it's more important for us to listen than to speak. But sadly, as you know, most people are just talking and not listening to others. So this is where you seize the opportunity. You focus on listening and processing what others have said before you deliver your perspective. And when you deliver your perspective, your words will carry a heavier weight. In terms of networking or meeting new people, apply the same principle of quality versus quantity. Instead of trying to needlessly talk to a whole bunch of strangers, try having one-on-one conversations. Again, it comes down to your energy source as an introvert. You won't get burned out that easily if you only deal with one facial expression and one stream of thoughts, which lowers the stimulation you receive. You also have more space to breathe without the rapid-fire dialogues from a group setting, which gives you better chances to listen and respond. Then, you'll truly be able to have conversations with minimal pressure, because sometimes one-to-one conversations are just not feasible. Or maybe you really want to talk with more people without draining your mental battery. This is when you can collaborate with an extrovert. Now, I know the video titled extrovert as a bad thing, but this is not what I want to convey. I'm just saying that not everyone can be an extrovert. And if you are an introvert who tries to be extrovert, just for the sake of being more sociable, you're going in the wrong direction. However, there are a lot of extroverts that love the abundance of social interactions, and they're not the enemies of introverts. Introverts and extroverts are like the opposite ends of a magnet. If you find an extrovert in different conversations, you two can work magnificently. The extrovert walks into the circle of strangers and breaks the ice. He tells some jokes, asks some questions, and introduces you. Meanwhile, you take the time to read the room without going through most of the small talk. When the conversation shifts to a deeper topic, you chime in. You provide meaningful insights and questions to a crowd, which allows a friend to help you continue the conversation. And when you're running out of things to say, your extrovert friend can act as your safety net. That way, your friend gets to yap, and you gets to expand your social network without draining your mental battery completely. So what I want to say in a nutshell is this. Stop trying to be an extrovert. The truth is, it's very hard to change yourself fundamentally. I've seen a lot of videos that teach you how to be an extrovert, and to be honest, I'm skeptical of them. Those videos mostly talk about how introverts can overcome their shyness, fear, and anxiety when they talk to other people. But this doesn't mean you can become an extrovert. Being an extrovert isn't something you can achieve by removing your shyness. It's defined by your inherent nature, how your mental state operates with stimulation. Not to mention, most of the introverts I know are not scared of starting conversations. They're just tired of it. So, of course, it's always possible for you to develop extrovert traits if you practice hard enough. But you shouldn't ignore the gifts you have as an introvert. It's always easier to go with the flow than to resist the current. So why not leverage the advantages of being an introvert? Thanks for watching.